Apologies for the once again a week off break. Ooh, it's there's not really been a reason for the break in the show. We were off for like a week or so. I prepared to do this show like 3 times last week, and each time I then thought, I'll just take a little break, go and have a lie down, go and do this, that, and the other, and then I'll be like, I just don't have the energy. I just don't have the energy. But it's Monday. The Monday at time of recording, we're getting this done. We've got 3 films now to review, and I guess a bit of a positive of taking an unplanned break was that a film that I got a little screener for a little while ago has had its review embargo lifted. So we get to review it early doors, and that is Bone Keeper. Going to be talking about that one a bit later on. An indie sci-fi horror featuring film royalty Jonathan Rhys-Davies of Lord of the Rings fame, Gimli. Also, the Shudder release Bodycam and it's just on Prime, A Game in the Woods. But before that, we've got some news, and then before that, let's just do our usual, me just talking crap for 5 to 10 minutes, but maybe for even less this time. There's not really too much to catch up on. I can't remember where I last advised I got to on Resident Evil Requiem, but I'm in the basement as Grace. It is quite jumpy, but I feel I'm getting a pretty dab hand at finding scrap metal, making more bullets, and being able to handle myself so far. So far, so yeah, I've been enjoying that. Warhammer still making them. I'm I'm going through the trials and tribulations of understanding how to correctly prepare a wet palette because the last 2 sessions that I've done on one particular, I made another one. I've made another Death Watch, but I'd previously made a kind of a this kind of looks like Baraka type Night Lord, and I was finding I was having to do a lot of layers, and a lot of the paint was pooling. Especially there's like a particular white that I would use for skulls, and this guy on his I think they call it paladins or whatever they're called, shoulder shoulder armor is a massive kind of skull with fangs. But I was constantly finding every time I did a layer on it, it was just pooling and it was just looking really shit. I think that I was using too wet a palette and then also using a wet brush, so it's just causing the paint to just pool. So hopefully, some point this week, I will get some time to resume some painting. I'm going to have an enforced bit of painting time in a few weeks, so just to kind of pull the curtain back a bit. And it's probably part of the reason why I've maybe wanted to be quite lackadaisical, whatever, in the last week. I mean, one, I've not really been sleeping well for a little while, so I do find like my motivation for focus dips massively in the evenings the last week. But yeah, I've got some surgery coming up in just under a month's time, which is gonna have me pretty immobile for a few months. I will hopefully still be doing the podcast because I shouldn't have a reason not to. I'll still be able to work. Essentially, it's just going to give me a better quality of life. It is an ankle fusion surgery. It's not a cosmetic procedure. It is in relation to a from birth issue with one of my ankles. One of my bars, but it's a bigger deal than that. That has been debilitating. Oh, pretty much since birth, and yeah, we looked with the hospitals at options on how to improve my quality of life, and that looks like one of the options. So that is now so far going ahead in about 3 weeks' time, 3 to 4 weeks' time. Scary times. Bit of yeah, not looking forward to it, to be honest. I don't think anyone looked forward to health related surgery, but hey, hey, what better time to catch up on plenty of Warhammer painting when I can't, go off to the gym or go out shopping, and also watch plenty of horror films. So it's not all bad. It's not all bad. But yeah, that's kind of it. I read a book recently on Kindle called In the Shadow of the Spire or something like that. It it wasn't very good. I'd heard it was a book similar to Salem's Lot, so I thought, okay, small town vampire vibes. I'm down to give that a go, but yeah, you could kind of tell from the writing that it was dragged out, and it wasn't a very long book. The finale, all right, but yeah, it was just one of those books where I could see that the progress percentage done was going up quite quickly, so I kind of forced myself to finish. It's not a book that I particularly enjoyed. I think I gave it 1 star out of 5 on Goodreads. So I wouldn't recommend that. So I'm now resuming the Horus Heresy, Horus Rising, Warhammer 40k book. Yeah, and seeing how well I get on with reading science fiction literature, which historically I don't do very well with, but I am becoming a bit of a Warhammer fanboy, so we'll see how we get on with that. Anyway, let's jump into some horror news, ghouls and fiends. As per usual, this all comes from bloodydisgusting.com. Check them out, all their good stuff. First up, Loner trailer. Two's a crowd in found footage folk horror film. This is an exclusive for Bloody Disgusting coming from Alex DiVincenzo. An ancient force haunts a survival vlogger in their exclusive trailer for Loner, a character driven found footage film that blends folk horror and psychological tension with a dash of dark humour. Following a screening at Panic Fest in Kansas City next month, Loner will stream for free April 24th exclusively on Found TV. The film follows aspiring vlogger Angus Mattock, who ventures to a remote wilderness retreat to create nature and survival videos. His idyllic getaway descends into nightmarish fight for his life as he is held captive by a mysterious natural force. Charlie Robb and Douglas Torn co-directing their feature debut. Robb penned the script and stars with Kat Johns Burke. Lone has won several awards on the festival circuit, including Best Feature at the British Horror Film Festival, Best Film and Best Actor at the Black Sunday Film Festival, and Best Director at Not Film Fest. I have watched the trailer for this. Yeah, it's giving me kind of more comedy horror vibe, but falling into that realm of comedy horror that's not really that funny. I don't know if it was just the trailer was giving off a certain tone, which it seems a bit in contrast to the description here. But if I was just to have seen the trailer on its own, I don't think I'd have been that interested. The write-up sounds like there might be a bit more to it, so, but yeah, not so much for me. I should mention, because I know we've got a bit of sad news coming up here, but a bit that wasn't written in here is that recently the news of the passing of Buffy star, played the character of Xander Harris, Nicholas Brendon, passed away from natural causes in his sleep at the age of 54, I believe. Yeah, it's an odd one. So I grew up with Buffy, and I always thought, like Xander's quite an endearing character. I mean, probably if you look at it now, he's probably a little bit of a lech, a little bit pervy. But whatever. It's the 90s. I'm sure that me saying whatever is probably looking over certain elements that happened in the series that through today's lens aren't very good at all. But I grew up with that show, so Buffy has a fond place in my heart. I understand that he's had quite a troubled periods in his life. He's been a bit problematic, to say the least. I don't know all of the ins and outs of the various issues he's had, felonies he's had, so I'm not going to try and downplay them or sugarcoat them because I don't know the details. But passing at that age is quite young, and it's it's a tragedy, but it's worth mentioning as it's horror adjacent. Speaking of that, also, Masters of Horror and iZombie actress Carrie Ann Fleming has passed away. Written up by Alex DiVincenzo. Canadian actress Carrie Ann Fleming has passed away due to complications from breast cancer. She died peacefully on February 26th at the age of 51. Dario Argento cast Fleming as the titular terror in his Masters of Horror episode Jennifer, for which she wore prosthetics to portray a deformed, siren-like creature. Fleming is also known for playing Candy on iZombie and Karen Singer on Supernatural. Other notable credits include Happy Gilmore, Rememory, The Tooth Fairy, Good Luck Chuck, and Bloodsuckers. Yeah. Oh, okay. I've seen a bit of an image now for the Masters of Horror episode. Very sad. One thing that is um that I don't really quite get. So it says here she died peacefully on February 26th. But this is news as of today. So I don't. Maybe it was a case of for family reasons, for privacy reasons, the report wasn't announced until I don't know, affairs were in order or whatnot. But either way, sad news. Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, opening box office weekend hints $9.1 million. John Squires writes, Samara Weaving and Catherine Newton are blood-soaked sisters in the fight for their lives in Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Once again directed by the filmmaking team known as Radio Silence. How did Ready or Not 2 fare at the opening weekend box office? It debuted at the number 4 spot in the domestic box office, making $9.1 million in the United States and a total of $11.9 million thus far worldwide. The horror sequel faced stiff competition in the form of both Hoppers and the Ryan Gosling starring Project Hail Mary. But the good news for the film is that the reviews were strong heading into the weekend. Ready or Not 2 is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes with a 75% score from critics and a 90% score from audiences, which no doubt helped sell some tickets. The other good news, the reported production budget for Ready or Not 2 Here I Come was just $14 million, so Searchlight Pictures should be able to turn a profit when all is said and done. That being said, it's unlikely that Ready or Not will become a trilogy at this point. The first sequel usually determines whether or not a two-movie saga becomes a full-blown franchise, so it's probably smart for Radio Silence to wrap things up with their 7 years later sequel. And if you've seen Here I Come, well, it's pretty clear that this was their intention all along. First Ready or Not film was indeed released in theatres 7 years ago, which feels like a lifetime these days. It debuted at $8 million in the US and went on to make $28.7 million domestically and $57.6 million worldwide. Heights the sequel is unlikely to reach. It doesn't help the movie's case that Warner Brothers is releasing They Will Kill You, starring Zazie Beetz in theatres this coming weekend, which looks very similar to the Ready or Not films. There was a time when Ready or Not 2 and They Will Kill You were set to release on the very same day, but Searchlight Pictures made the smart decision to bump up Ready or Not 2. So I do want to see this. Hopefully, we'll be able to get down to the cinema to see this soon, because I did enjoy Ready or Not. I think it's a good idea to not bank on a film being this is now going to be part of a franchise, especially when it's a new series. I mean, I've said before on this show that I was very surprised with the news of a sequel because I felt that the first film wrapped things up quite neatly. After seeing the trailers for Ready or Not 2, I thought, okay, well they've got a hook for this. They've got a great cast. I'm in. And from the sounds of that, this again feels like it'll wrap things up nicely. I mean, who knows? Maybe if it does end up doing gangbusters, they might decide to do a third film. But I think it's always good to not bank on that because as we've seen recently, the news is looking like we may not get the third 28 Years Later film based on the poor box office return for 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, in comparison to 28 Years Later, which I think is a real shame. I really enjoyed The Bone Temple. I've really enjoyed 28 Years Later. So I would have liked to have seen that gone, especially with the kind of epilogue scene, the coda scene in The Bone Temple. But it's one of those things where if it's not a guarantee, if you haven't already shot it ahead of time, it can then end up becoming the massive what if and just cause a bit of resentment, towards the studios, really, not necessarily the filmmakers. So, okay, sounding like it ends neatly to an extent. Next, Welcome to Derry. Co-creators Andy and Barbara Muschietti explain season 2 delay. We're all working towards it. Alex DiVincenzo writes, a second season of It Welcome to Derry has not officially been announced, despite having HBO Max's third most watched debut in the platform's history, but its return is imminent. It's going to be official, co-creator Barbara Muschietti tells Collider. We're all working towards it. We are working, the studio's working, it's just that we want to make it real and we need the material. Sometimes the announcements come a little delayed because of deals and stuff, adds co-creator Andy Muschietti. I don't want to get too granular about it, but there's a general intention to make it happen. A lot of times the announcements of the studio have to declare their confidence for the show. We don't need that because clearly we're good, explains Barbara. So when we do get the green light, it's a real green light. It's not just like, okay, we'll try to put this out so people watch the show. People have watched the show, it's good. Serving as a prequel to Andy Muschietti's It films based on Stephen King's classic horror novel, the first season of It Welcomes Derry went back to 1962 to explore the origins of the evil, shape-shifting entity known as Pennywise. The second season is expected to take place in 1935, with the proposed third season to be set in 1908. Yeah, I think that's quite smart. We're not just going to go ahead bulldoze and we got the show, we're going to do it, blah, 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 blah. You need to have the material first. And what can happen sometimes is you have a season that comes out, it's highly successful, it's greenlit and rushed ahead for production, but the script isn't there. The script is it's not been refined. It's not got a good enough idea. It's probably what happened with Heroes. To be fair, the first season was incredible, and it never reached those heights again. The second season was kind of poor. The third, I don't think I ever finished it. Either the third or the fourth had some potential, but it just, it really became a bit of a meandering mess by the end of it. I really dug It Welcome to Derry. I didn't watch it through a lens of, well, this isn't lore accurate. This is, blah, 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 blah. Because it's a prequel to Andy Muschietti's It Chapter 1 and 2 adaptations. And those had some elements that were faithful, some elements that were an amalgamation, like Patrick Hocksetter character was a bit of a combination of like, not Belch, but probably Victor Chris. And there are things they did accurate, like the Adrian Mellon attack was pretty accurate to the book, but there's also things where they wisely left things out or made adjustments, which I think we'd have probably, I don't know. I'm not a spider hater in terms of the It book. So I It Chapter 2 I have mellowed on, but I still hate the final fight. I still just absolutely hate how it is won. So my point being, I'm not super, obsessed with how how accurate it is to the source material. So yeah, keep doing your thing. Andy and Barbara Muschietti, keep doing your thing. I will watch it. And finally, in the horror news, Hard West 2 coming soon to PS5 and Xbox. Mike Wilson writes, 4 years after launch on Steam, Clabber, Good Shepherd Entertainment, and Ice Code Games have announced that their occult turn-based tactics game set in the Wild West, Hard West 2, will be coming to the PS5 and Xbox series. No date has been set, but you can wishlist the game now on either platform. In the sequel to the 2015 original, you are Jin Carter, a legendary outlaw who sets out on a mission to rob the mysterious ghost train. However, it soon becomes clear that gold will not be your main objective. Instead, you will face the task of reclaiming your own soul. To achieve this, together with your posse, you will travel across the diverse lands of the Weird West, fighting a variety of enemies and taking part in duels, train robberies, and horseback chases. Explore the far reaches of the Wild West in a desperate fight to save your soul. Discover more about your posse as you wander the lands, from snow-covered vistas to frontier towns, struggling to survive in a merciless world. Make brutal choices and learn to live with the gruesome consequences. I played probably all of 10 minutes of Hard West first game on Game Pass a few years ago. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I like turn-based RPGs in the sense of JRPGs, Final Fantasy, of course. I've slowly been getting into, although I've not played it for a little while, Octopath Traveler. Got the first 2 of those on the Switch. But the kind of almost top-down, it's like not quite fully top-down, but it's angled top-down, don't know the correct terminology for that. Turn-based games, I can't get into, because I always find that the tutorial aspect, which is important to know how to play a game, especially if it's got a lot of moving cogs to it. But I always find in those sorts of games, it's just such an info dump. It's not like more the action focused games where the tutorial comes at you at a nice steady pace. You run through this area, a little thing pops up saying, "Oh, press this button to crouch, press this button to blah blah blah." The turn-based games tutorials is just a lot of text usually on the screen. I found that with Hard West. I found that more recently with Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. I tried that for a little while because that was on Game Pass, and it's too info dump heavy for me, and also the combat was, there's turn-based combat and then there's kind of boring combat. So I'm just saying I didn't vibe with Rogue Trader. So yeah, Hard West 2 I probably won't land on my radar, but if you're a fan of the original, the sequel's coming soon to PS5 and Xbox as well as Steam. Right, ghouls and fiends, that is it for the horror news. Let's jump into the reviews. And the reviews are going to start off with A Game in the Woods. So with all of our horror reviews, I'm going to talk about the highs, lows, talk about the plot a bit first. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Talk about the plot, talk about the highs, the lows, and then I'm going to give you my score out of 10. Please bear in mind, this is just my opinion, so if you disagree with it, let me know. Let's have a chat. Let's have a chat about it. So A Game in the Woods, directed by Mike McCutcheon, written by Drew Guardado, Mike McCutcheon and Drew Thomas, starring Ellen Newman, Emily Skeen, and John P. Crowley. After a Texas rancher dies, his granddaughter and her girlfriend discover masked hunters at his ranch, competing in a twisted game of life and death. Will the beauties and their already rocky romance survive the brutal carnage? So, this was a tough watch, to be honest with you. This was a tough watch. It was such a threadbare script. I thought the trailer for it looked decent enough, which is why I gave it a watch. And we've talked on the show before about the problem with going to watch something on Prime, so you're not renting or buying something new. Going to watch something on Prime, and a lot of stuff ends up on Prime. And some of it you base it on the artwork and think, no, not for me. Others, it will have the linked IMDb score, so you can get an idea of, okay, how crap is this considered to be? Is it worth me giving a go? And you shouldn't base films purely on how other people have rated it, because one man's trash could be another man's treasure. You never know. But this one didn't have a terrible score. The trailer looked kind of decent. Oh God, it was a slog. It was an hour and 20 minutes that dragged. The acting in this was really quite poor. It kind of just felt like things were being made up as they went along. People with these masks on that have like owl masks, and it's all kind of part of like a bit of a. Is it a cult or is it like a murder crew thing, a la Game of Death? The Van Damme film. Is it? It just felt like this was just a case of, hey, we've got access to some woods nearby, and I know that. I know that because I've made films with that perspective. They're not good. They're labours of love. I enjoyed making them, and they're the fruits of our labour. But in the grand pantheon of entertaining films to watch, not as opposed to being a filmmaker, they're not great. And this just felt like that. Like, we're going to go out in the woods with our cameras and get some kills. And the kills have a little bit of variety to them, but nothing that's that interesting. There's some moments that are just, disgusting for the sake of it. Not the, but not, I don't really know how to describe it. It's just, I just found this really quite poor. There wasn't really anything redeemable about it. There wasn't any particular moment when I was like, oh, that was pretty good. Because sometimes you can have a horror film and you're like, the acting's really off-putting in this, but then you get like a really cool kill, or you get a really cool chase sequence, or a really nice shot, or just sometimes there are redeemable factors. I just didn't like this at all. The music was by the numbers. I'm gonna give A Game in the Woods, which is available now to watch on Prime, 2 out of 10. Because it's, I don't know, maybe it's shot in 4K, so it doesn't, the camera clarity doesn't look terrible, but like the shots are very boring, the script was not interesting, the acting was poor, the kills weren't memorable. The soundtrack was very forgettable. What can you say, really? You can't be kind in this economy. Next up, the Shudder release Bodycam, 2025 film. Directed by Brendan Christensen, written by Brendan Christensen and Ryan Christensen, starring James M. Calica, Sean Rogerson, Catherine Lou Hagquist. Two police officers investigate a domestic dispute and there is an accidental shooting. Not wanting to be crucified by the public, the officers attempt to cover it up, only to discover that the cameras aren't the only things watching them. Okay. Okay. Now this isn't as bad as A Game in the Woods before my reaction maybe makes you think, Jesus Christ, has he watched some crap this week? No, no, no. The opening of this film, the opening that's discussed there of the accidental shooting, that is all pretty good. Okay, so the film is, as per the title, it's a found footage, lost media, whatever, found footage film from the perspective of the body cams. It is all shot from those perspectives. And the opening 10, 15 minutes or so, it's pretty good. It's tense. It kind of feels almost like a slightly less manic finale of Blair Witch Project, going through this dilapidated house, guns raised. It's like, this is why first-person shooters, first-person horror shooters specifically, are very immersive when done well. Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, the first few Fear games. That kind of aspect of the immersive first-person view with a gun up, going through an area that just something is not quite right here. But then things start falling off. And it comes down to the bloody typical trope with a lot of found footage films of over-reliance on digital damage. So they had the police officers go in, there's an accidental shooting, there's a bit of a, ignore the gun element here, a bit of a trigger warning because there is a death relating to a child and a dog. Things that people will, if you hate watching a film when a dog dies, you may not like this. Obviously, if you hate watching a film where a baby does not come out of things unscathed, just bear that in mind. They're not gratuitous scenes, but they're just, they can be quite upsetting. And this accidental shooting goes down, and then there seems to be something otherworldly going on or supernatural going on. And these police officers, or one of them in particular, are essentially marked. From that point, they're then coming into contact with a number of the unhomed or homeless, whatever the correct terminology is these days, who keep uttering, "You took something from him, he takes something from you." And that could be quite creepy, but it's just the quality starts dipping from this point. And you're then getting the moments of the digital damage, and so the things that the police officer is seeing, the one who's been marked, that maybe other people aren't seeing, they're also being shown up on the camera, which I get for a viewer aspect. It gives you that, oh, something's going on here. Doesn't really necessarily make sense why that would affect the, whatever. Throw logic out the window. As it goes on, there are some decent moments of tension when they're trying to find out the answers, trying to find out what has happened to the wife of whichever cop it is. What's his name? Officer Bryce. But it then leads to a finale that is let down by shonky CGI. Yeah, it's one of those things where I think that found footage films that try to utilize CGI for otherworldly things, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't often come out looking that good. I think often of the Dilatove Pass, which I'm pretty sure has Wendigos in it near the end, and they don't look very good. And that is a decent found footage film, up to where it gets a little bit cheesy with the crap CGI. Now with this film, there are issues before we get into the really dodgy CGI later in the film, but is it entertaining enough? It's okay. It's intriguing enough to want to follow the story to find out who is this he that you've taken something from, and what is it that he wants. What is the recompense for this transgression? How are things going to get wrapped up? It's just a real missed opportunity, I feel. And it's frustrating because, as I say, the opening of the film is pretty good. It's pretty damn tense. It can't retain that, and it can't get that back later in the film. Kind of shoots its load in the first 10 minutes, and that's a horrible analogy, but we're going to go with it. 5 out of 10 for Bodycam. Disappointing. It's available now to watch on Shudder. And then finally, thank you very much to the people at Strike Media. They sent me an advanced copy of Bone Keeper. Bone Keeper is a new, it's coming out on digital download from 6th of April. From the director of The Ledge, Escape, and Dark Game. And we reviewed Dark Game a little while back. So Howard J. Ford, written and directed by, starring Sarah Alexandra Marks, Louis James, Tiffany Hannum Daniels, and British acting royalty John Rhys-Davies, known for very much by me for Lord of the Rings as Gimli. So a cosmic fireball crashes into the remote woodland, awakening a terrifying creature hidden in the depths. 1976, James Wheeler enters a cave determined to uncover the truth, and is never seen again. All that's found is a single frame of Super 8 film, capturing the silhouette of a horrifying creature. Now Wheeler's granddaughter, along with 5 explorers, set out to investigate the legend of the Bone Keeper. But deep in the caves, they realise they are being hunted, and the line between hunter and prey blurs. Will they uncover the truth and escape the creature, or become the next missing souls? Okie dokie, so Bone Keeper. This is a mixed bag. Okay, so Jonathan Rhys-Davies has quite a small role in this, but he is a standout in terms of the acting quality. He's kind of there to provide the role of advisor, expert, person who knows and has had an encounter with this situation to give some advice, to warn them off essentially. But this group are going to go to this cave. One of their own, her mother, had gone missing, going into this cave searching for, evidence of her father, this main character's grandfather. She's got a bit of a weird group with her. There's a guy who's a bit of a lad, but it's kind of outdated lad humor, to be honest. It's a bit cheesy. And then they come across on their trip, and this was a bit of a missed opportunity as well. Bitch hiker, hashtag bitch hikers. So it's a viral sensation. This woman who hitchhikes, but she's sassy and she goes to different locations, and she vlogs everything. Everything is live or put on socials. They pick her up, go to this town where they're warned off by the locals. So we've got a mixture of like Yorkshire and Cockney. It's not really clear exactly where it is they've gone, but the footage looks like it's either Wales or Yorkshire or something. I don't know, Scotland. I'm not that geographically sound, but it's a very beautiful area that they go to. But when we then get into the caves, this is where it highlights. The good thing with this is, where it's a cosmic monster horror film, when we're dealing with the actual animal, or the being's attacks, the tentacled amorphic being, that's where it really stands out. It's an odd situation where the CGI in this is pretty decent, actually. It's ambitious CGI, I don't know, and I don't quote, don't go quoting me on this. Don't go, cutting this, but I don't know if it's AI CGI because it has a very clean look to it. You know how AI has a certain gloss that if you see AI footage, you can go, oh, that's AI. I don't know if that is the case. I don't know if there's been AI assistance, and it depends really on how strongly you feel about AI. I mean, you know, it can be a useful tool, but I also appreciate in the arts it's taken jobs away from people, etc., etc. It's an ongoing debate of if it is a tool that can be used well or if it is blasphemous. So I don't know the production of the CGI aspects. It just sort of has that look to it. But the CGI is actually kind of decent. The practical effects, though, not so much. It's a bit of a weird situation where we get moments where they find body parts, bones, broken off limbs. They do look a bit shit. But then when we actually get the monster attacking and ripping and whatever, it looks pretty good. Those moments are pretty good. And they do help elevate this somewhat because the acting, other than Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, is not great. It's pretty by the numbers. It's kind of EastEnders acting, to be honest. But Jonathan Rhys-Meyers in his few scenes does give it a little bit of gravitas. So it is a mixed bag because I enjoyed the visual aspects with the CGI. I liked the bit of a fake out ending in it. That was pretty good. But yeah, the acting was not that good in it. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for Bonekeeper. Bonekeeper comes to digital on the 6th of April. But if you like tentacled monsters ripping people up head to toe and amalgamating them into itself, a la The Thing, check it out. It might be up your street. Anyway, Ghouls and Fiends, that is it for another edition of the Ministry of Horror. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, whatever platform of choice you have, whether that is TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Instagram, of course, as well. If you want to support the channel, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Ministry of Horror. That is where the show goes out 24 hours early as an exclusive, along with bonus features over on there. You can also interact, have suggestions, and at the different tier levels, you can have an influence on the show. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.